Hello Year 5, here's to another day and another chapter of the Land of Stories. So I hope you're sitting comfortably, sat down, cup of tea, cake, biscuit. I haven't. So otherwise I wouldn't be able to read the story to you, would I, with a mouthful of biscuits and a mouthful of cake? So next chapter is chapter 9. The Charming Kingdom. Are you ready? Okay, let's go. Alex and Connor woke up on the floor of Rapunzel's tower just after sunrise. They were snuggled under the blankets Foggy had given them, and they'd used their bags as pillows. "How did you sleep?" Alex asked her brother. "Like I slept on the floor of a tower," Connor said, thinking he'd never take his bed at home for granted again. He stretched his back and his joints made sounds like firecrackers. They put away their blankets and decided to get an early start on their day. Alex insisted on tidying up the tower, leaving it in better condition than they had found it. "I'd hate for anyone to think we'd made this mess," Alex said. Connor rolled his eyes at her and made sure she saw it. "What's our next stop?" Connor asked Alex. She looked back and forth from the map in one hand and the journal in the other. "Well, the Charming Kingdom is just east of here," Alex said. "I figure it would be wisest to go there, and if we can get hold of Cinderella's slipper." "And how exactly are we going to do that?" Connor asked. Alex had to think about it. "Well, just ask if we can borrow it," she decided. "Fat chance," Connor said. "That's like walking into the White House and asking for the Declaration of Independence." Although Connor was wrong about the whereabouts of the Declaration of Independence, Alex knew he was right to be concerned. How were they going to get their hands on one of Cinderella's slippers? Surely they must be the most prized possessions of the kingdom. "We'll have to try our best," Alex said. "What other option do we have?" The twins travelled down the spiral staircase in the core of Rapunzel's tower and returned to the path. They eventually came to a fork where a new path splintered off in an eastern direction. The sign above the fork said Charming Kingdom and pointed in the direction the new path was headed. Connor looked at the sign again, pressing her hands against her cheeks. "Now I really wish I had a camera." They travelled down the new path for quite a while without discovering anything new but the same dirt path and evergreen trees they had seen for the last 2 days. Connor became more anxious the further he walked, letting out large extended sighs every minute or so. "Are you sure we aren't lost? I swear I've seen that boulder and that tree about 20 times already," he said, pointing. "I'm positive we're travelling in the right direction. I've been watching the map ever since we left," Alex said. "We should be approaching a stream very soon, and once we cross it, it will be in the Charming Kingdom." Connor sighed again. It would be his last one for a while, so he made sure it was extra long. A couple of hours later, there was no stream in sight. Connor was starting to lose faith in his sister's navigational abilities. "This place must be bigger than we thought," Alex said. "Or this map is completely off the scale." Eventually, the twins found the stream Alex had seen on the map. The path went across a small bridge made out of pale stones and then continued on the other side. "You see, I told you I knew what I was doing," Alex said, with her head held high. Yeah, Connor said. "Honestly, Connor, I'm a little disappointed in your lack of faith," Alex gloated. "If there's one place I should know my way round, it would have to be here." Grrr. That wasn't very good grrr, but it will do. Connor heard his sister's high-pitched scream before he realised what had happened. A large troll had jumped right in front of them on the bridge. He was short and very wide, with an enormous head. He was covered in matted fur, with his large eyes and a snout. His arms and legs were tiny, but his nails and teeth were sharp and long. "You are on my bridge," the troll shouted. "How dare you?" "We're so sorry," said Alex, clutching onto her brother like a monkey to a tree. "We had no idea this bridge belonged to anyone." "Maybe you should put up a sign or something," Connor suggested, and then regretted it once it made the troll even angrier. "What are you doing on my bridge?" demanded the troll. "Trying to cross into the charming kingdom," Alex said. "We didn't mean any harm." "No one crosses my bridge without answering." "Hurry up, Alex," Connor shouted. "Oh, hush," Alex said. "I'm going to say that it must be a gift. A gift can be any size, and the receiver is who owns it, not the person who purchases it." The bridge troll stopped swaying from side to side and slumped over. "That is correct," the bridge troll said disappointingly. "You may pass." Alex clapped her hands together and did a small jump. She extended her hand out to offer a troll a handshake, but he ignored it. Instead, he crawled back below to wherever he had jumped out of. "See," Alex said, once she met up with her brother on the other side of the bridge. "I knew I'd answer it correctly." Connor shook his head. "And I'm sure I'll have to hear about it for the rest of our lives," he said. "But let's try to make it to Cinderella's palace by sundown, okay?" The twins continued their journey into the charming kingdom. They were excited to see different scenery as they travelled. The evergreen trees they had seen so much of became scarce and were slowly replaced by large oak trees. There were also vast fields of tall grass and wildflowers everywhere they looked. "It's so beautiful here," Alex said. They had been walking for hours and still saw no sign of anything. Connor was practically dry by now. "Where is everything?" Connor asked. "The charming kingdom is a very big place," Alex said. "It's going to take a while to get to the palace." It began to get dark and the twins became very worried. There was no shelter in sight, and soon the moon was their only source of light. They walked a short distance off the path and found a grassy area among a few trees that they assumed and hoped was safe, and they decided to spend the night there. Connor tried to make a fire by rubbing 2 sticks together, but was unsuccessful. "Now, I really wish I had signed up for Boy Scouts," he said. It was their very first night sleeping outside. Both kept waking up every hour or so to make sure they were still safe, because every sound terrified them. "What was that?" Alex gasped in the middle of the night. "That's an owl," Connor said, "or a very inquisitive dove, but either way, I think we're safe." The next morning, the sunrise woke them. They restlessly got to their feet and returned to the path. "We're running out of food," Alex said after eating one of their last apples. "We'll have to stock up as soon as we find a market or something. I'm so tired of rolls and apples. I'm starting to think we should have asked Froggy to pack us some flies." Connor said, "Gosh, I'd kill for a cheeseburger. Maybe that's why everyone eats each other here. They just haven't discovered fast food yet." They found a small pond on the side of the path and splashed some water on their faces. "We look so tired," said Alex, looking at their reflection in the water. The twins heard a galloping sound coming from behind them on the path. They turned to see a small cart of firewood being pulled by a grey horse, and it was steered by a man with a big floppy green hat. Let's ask how much farther until the palace, Alex said, and ran over to the cart. Excuse me, sir. Whoa! The man said, slowing his horse to a stop. May I help you? How much farther until we reach Cinderella's palace? Alex asked. Are you travelling by foot? The man asked. Unfortunately, Connor said. Then it'll take you days to get there, the man said. Alex and Connor looked at each other, completely exasperated. I'm delivering this firewood near the palace tonight, the man said. I can give you a ride if you like. Before he could finish his sentence, Connor had climbed up aboard the cart. Thank you so much, Alex said. That is so kind of you. The twins travelled with the man for the rest of the day. Connor made himself comfortable on top of the firewood and napped almost the entire journey, waking up every so often whenever they hit a bump in the road. Alex, on the other hand, took full advantage of having an actual human to talk to from the fairy tale world. What's your name? Alex asked the man. Smithers, the man said. Where are you from? She asked. I grew up in a small village in the northern eastern part of the charming kingdom, Smithers said. What's it like there? Alex said dreamily. My brother and I haven't been around this kingdom very much. The charming kingdom is a quiet place, Smithers said. It has so many small villages on the outskirts of the kingdom and many wealthy estates in the centre near the palace. Have you ever been to the palace before? Alex asked. Oh, yes. I make many deliveries there during the year, he said. In fact, tonight the king and queen are having a huge ball. They are? Alex's eyes doubled in size and she shook Connor awake. Connor, did you hear that? King Charming was the definition of dashing. He was every bit as handsome as any description ever written about him. He had a mesmerising smile, thick wavy hair under a large golden crown. He could have easily been a movie star back in the twins' world. The king and queen took their seats on the thrones, and the guard with the trumpet blew the opening notes of another announcement. Let the ball begin, the guard with the trumpet proclaimed, and was greeted with another round of excited applause. The majority of the guests rushed to the dance floor. The orchestra began playing a fast. Once inside, find a way into Cinderella's royal display room. This will also be difficult since no one is allowed in the Queen's chambers without an invitation from her. The slippers are on display in a glass box on the top of a pillar in the centre of the room. The slippers are not hard to remove from inside the glass box, but the room is under constant watch by 2 guards at its entrance. Find a way to be alone in the royal display room and remove a slipper quietly and quickly. Leave as fast as you can, because as soon as they notice something is missing, the guards will close the palace doors and you'll be trapped and taken to the dungeon to be hung upside down from your toenails. Best of luck. How are we going to get into the palace? Connor asked. Alex began to think of a plan, but she was distracted by a long line of carriages driving down the main street of the town towards the palace. They were elegant and colourful, and each was of its own design. Each carriage had at least 2 horses pulling it, a coachman, a footman riding on the back, and a number of passengers inside. The ball, Alex said. We'll have to sneak into the ball. Said Connor, contemplating this information. And what are we supposed to wear? Look at us. We're not dressed formally enough, and I bet we smell really fresh after walking for 3 days straight with no showers. I have no idea, Alex said. She opened their bags and took out their blankets. She grabbed hold of Connor and began wrapping the blanket around him, folding it strategically in certain places so it would stay up. Alex wrapped herself in the blanket. There, Alex said. Now we look like we're wearing sensible robes. We look ridiculous, Connor said. Do you have any other ideas? Alex asked him. Do you think there's a fairy godmother hotline we could call? Connor asked. The twins walked down to the main street. They followed the traffic of carriages towards the palace. The closer they came to the palace, the larger it grew and the more real it became. Many of the coachmen glared at the twins with bewildered and judgmental looks. A few passengers leaned out of their carriages to see what the twins were doing. Take a picture, it lasts longer, Connor shouted at them. Connor, they don't know what that means, Alex said. And they reached the palace just as the sun was setting, as each carriage neared the front steps of the palace's entrance. Its footman would run around the carriage and gently help the passengers out. Alex and Connor had never seen such beautiful clothing. All the women wore long ball gowns of various colours, fabrics and stitching. They wore gloves and diamonds. Some wore bows and feathers in their hair. The men all dressed beautifully too, some in formal armour and some in suits with broad fringed shoulders and square cuffs. All the effort and flair that the guests had put into their appearance made the twins feel very insecure about their impromptu robes. They stuck out like sore thumbs. They were the youngest people there, and they were the only ones not dressed in lace or satin, and they were the only ones carrying bags. They looked exactly like they were a couple of kids sneaking into a ball. An extensive row of steps led up to the palace's entrance. Alex and Connor began climbing them with the rest of the attendees. It was such a climb, they wondered if they'd ever reach the top of it. This world has goblins and fairies, but where's an escalator when you need one? Connor said. Connor, Alex gasped. Look at this. She pointed to the silver star placed in the steps underneath their feet. It read, "This marks the very place where Cinderella left her glass slipper behind on the night she met Prince Charming." Can you believe that's the very spot Cinderella left her glass slipper? Alex said, with both hands pressed against her heart. Absolutely, Connor said. I wouldn't have climbed these steps again if I'd left my shoe either. The twins caused quite a scene at the entrance. Everyone was absolutely appalled by their clothing. Alex could feel herself blushing from the way everyone was staring at her. She felt like she was back at school. One palace guard in particular couldn't stop staring at them, not in a judgmental way, but as if he had seen them somewhere before and couldn't remember where. He was just a step inside the palace entrance and he greeted all the guests as they passed him. He wore more badges on his uniform than any of the guards and he had a very thin, dark beard. Another palace guard was collecting invitations at the doors. The twins began to panic. What are we going to do? Alex whispered to her brother. Let me handle this, Connor said. I saw this in a movie once. Just go with it. Invitations, please, the guard said. Our parents have our invitations, but they're already inside, Connor said. And who are your parents? All the guests paired up and began waltzing around the room, each looking lovingly into their partner's eyes the entire time. The king and queen remained seated. You could tell Cinderella wanted to join the dance, but her pregnancy was preventing her from doing so. King Charming only had eyes for his wife. He was enjoying her watching the dance more than the actual dance itself. At one point, each of the dancing men collected a shoe from their partners and circled them with it before placing it back on their feet. A Cinderellan tribute, no doubt. Time flew by as the twins watched the ball. The unborn child Cinderella was carrying must have been kicking from all the excitement. Cinderella appeared to have some discomfort and had been rubbing her belly and shifting in her seat for some time. She eventually whispers something into King Charming's ear, and King Charming took his wife's hand and carefully helped her back up the grand staircase. The guard blew his trumpet again. The Queen is tired and wishes to rest, but she and the King welcome you to continue this celebration without their presence. The crowd happily obliged and continued their fun. Would you like a tour of the palace? Lambton asked the twins. More than anything, Alex said. Lambton escorted the twins out of the ballroom and down a hall similar to the one they had first entered the palace through. It too was home to several portraits of past rulers and a long red carpet. This palace was built over 500 years ago, Lambton told them as he walked. It's been home to the Charming dynasty since then. This is a portrait of King Chester Charming, Cinderella's late father-in-law. He referred to a large painting of an old bearded man with a crown. He looked exactly like his son, but much older. How many King Charmings have there been? Connor asked. We've lost count, Lambton said. There are 3 currently. King Chester had 4 sons: Chance Charming, Chase Charming, Chandler Charming, and Charlie Charming. Each of the Charming brothers had his own portrait on the wall. King Chance Charming is the oldest and is married to Queen Cinderella, Lambton said, and gestured to the portrait of the man they had just seen in the ballroom. King Chase Charming is the second oldest and is married to Queen Sleeping Beauty, Lambton continued. Chase looked exactly like his brother, except he was a bit taller and wore a goatee. King Chandler Charming is the third oldest and is married to Queen Snow White, Lambton said. Chandler looked like his brothers, but had the longest hair of them all. The last portrait in the hallway caught the twins' eye the most. It was hung slightly away from the rest and depicted the youngest of the Charming brothers. He was young and had a big smile. A single candle was lit beside the portrait. It appeared to be a memorial of sorts. Who's that? Connor asked Lambton. Lambton's happy expression faded away. That's Prince Charlie, the 4th son of King Chester. He's the long-lost Charming prince, Lambton said. He vanished one night many years ago, and no one ever saw him again. That's horrible, Alex said. His brothers led massive search parties throughout all the kingdoms, but they never found a trace of him, Lambton said sadly. Fortunately, some good came out of the search. While on the road, Prince Chandler came across Snow White in her glass coffin, and Prince Chase discovered Sleeping Beauty asleep in her castle, and they both broke the spells put on them and were married. That's incredible, Alex said. So, if Prince Charlie never went missing, Sleeping Beauty and Snow White would still be unconscious. That may be, Lambton said, and his brothers took all the eligible princesses. Prince Chance had to put on the ball when he met Cinderella. Everything happens for a reason, I suppose. Alex and Connor couldn't stop staring at the portrait of Prince Charlie. There was a sad energy in this part of the hallway, and the twins were especially sensitive to it. The long-lost prince couldn't have been much older than them when he'd gone missing, and Lambton clearly appreciated the twins' interest. Now follow me. I have something very special I want to show you, Lambton said. Lambton led the twins down another hallway that led deeper into the palace. This part of the palace was completely vacant, and it made the twins more and more nervous as they walked. They had no idea where Lambton was taking them, and they were too timid to ask. They rounded a corner, and at the end of another long hall was a pair of double black doors. There was 2 guards on either side of the doors, and a large stone arch above them with a sign that read, Queen Cinderella's Royal Room of Display. Alex and Connor looked at each other with light in their eyes. They had made it. Hello, Sir Lambton, one of the guards said. Good evening, Lambton said, and he pushed open the doors and the twins followed him inside. They set their bags down and looked around the room. The display room was a wide chamber with white pillars and sky blue tiled floor. The ceilings. Forgive our intrusion, Your Majesty. My name is Sir Grant, and I am the head of Queen Snow White's royal guard. We have news regarding the evil queen, the leader of the soldiers said. What is it? King Charming said. Everyone in the room could tell it was not good news by his tone. You could have cut the tension and worry in the air with a knife. Last night, a magic mirror that belonged to the evil queen was stolen from her former chambers, Sir Grant said. The evil queen is still very much at large, and that she has her former mirrors makes her a much greater threat to us all. We are asking, pleading, if anyone in the Charming Kingdom knows anything about where the evil queen is hiding, that they please let us know immediately. Snow White's soldiers filed out of the room. King Charming and Cinderella embraced each other, worried both for themselves and for what the news meant for their kingdom. It was lovely to meet you, children, but I must go now, Lambton said to them. He patted their shoulders and then headed out after the soldiers. Many of the guests began leaving as well, and Alex and Connor followed them out, down the entrance steps and away from the palace. This whole evil queen situation is starting to concern me, Alex said. I know, but it's not really our problem, Connor said. We'll be long gone before anything else happens. I suppose so, Alex said. Where are you off to now? Connor asked. The Little Red Riding Hood Kingdom is north of here, Alex said, and I say that's the best direction to head. I hope we have better luck getting hold of Red Riding Hood's basket. We'd better not chicken out this time, Connor said. Gosh, we were so close. He clenched a tight fist. We just couldn't have taken it, not without permission, Alex said. It wouldn't have felt right. I'm so tired of being a good person, Connor said. Despite having failed to collect a glass slipper and the abrupt end to their evening, the twins had had a pretty fantastic night. It wasn't every day that they had got to have such an intimate conversation with one of the most famous women in history. Luckily, the twins found a night driver transporting a cart full of pears to a village in the northern part of the Charming Kingdom. They convinced him to let them ride in the back of his carriage in exchange for a few gold coins. It would only be a few miles walk to the Red Riding Hood Kingdom from there. Connor fell asleep as soon as they climbed aboard. Alex couldn't sleep, so she decided to read the journal again. She reached into her bag and was astounded to discover what was inside. Connor! Alex gasped. Connor jumped back to consciousness. What is it? He asked. He looked over and saw something very shiny in his sister's hand. His eyes were still a little blurry from sleeping, and he had to let them adjust before realising what it was. A glass slipper, Connor exclaimed, and Alex gestured for him to keep quiet so the driver wouldn't hear them. How in the world did we get one? Did you steal it? I thought it was you. Alex's mouth was so wide it could have fitted a dozen of the pears inside it. No, it wasn't me, I swear. Do you think Lambton or Cinderella put it in your bag? Connor asked. Do you think one of them knew we needed it? I have no idea, Alex said. She couldn't believe she was actually holding on to one of Cinderella's glass slippers. They were both completely dumbfounded. Looks like our trip to the Charming Kingdom wasn't such a waste after all, Connor said. So, that's the end of chapter 9. Chapter 10, as you know, is the Red Riding Hood Kingdom. Now, I'm on the last book now. I'm on that one, Worlds Collide. So I know what's going to happen. I know what happens in all the other books. And it is, as I said to you before, it's wow. really is. It takes you on so many twists and turns. So I'm going to pack up now, and I'm going to go to bed, and I'm going to start The Worlds Collide, and it's the last one. So, but I can't give you any hints because otherwise it sort of spoils everything. But everything that you've heard so far, and all what you're going to hear, and when we get through the other books, it all falls into place. So I'm just hoping this one gives me the answers to everything else. So it's fantastic. So there you go, Year 5. Sorry it's in a few short bursts. Unfortunately, if I read it all together, it takes about an hour. So it takes a very long time, and then try to upload it just doesn't happen. So that's why it's in short, sharp bursts. But they're all together. Okay, so it's lovely speaking to you. And I can't wait to see you all. I'm missing you lots, and I know Miss Crosses as well. In fact, I think I know everybody's missing everybody. So there you go, Year 5. Okay,